So FromSoft added the new enhanced fights for Gaping Jaw and Fulghor, and in the game these enhanced bosses are called Everdark Sovereigns, which first of all, that title means pretty much the same thing as Nightlord, so that's kinda funny. By the time this video comes out, most likely the Everdark Sovereign would have changed, and that is because these enhanced bosses are only available for 1 week at a time, and after that 1 week they will get changed to the next one. And it looks like the next one will be the enhanced version of Sentient Pest, and I am not excited for that one. After defeating an Everdark Sovereign for the first time, you get 25 Sovereign Sigils, which are a new currency, and after that, for each victory you get 5 Sovereign Sigils. This new currency can be spent at this new merchant called the Collector Signboard. Here you can buy new relic rights for each Nightfarer, some relics, and all of the skins. Obviously, the rest of the video will contain spoilers, so be aware. The first Nightlord to get an Everdark Sovereign version was the Gaping Jaw. I still don't really know the correct pronunciation of its name, so for now I will call it Gaping Jaw. So how did I do against this new harder Gaping Jaw fight? My first expedition was in co-op because I forgot to change it to solo, but oh well. We ended up not just smoking every boss in the game, but also defeated the enhanced Gaping Jaw quite easily. I was of course playing Ironeye, so the boss didn't seem that hard. After that I went to defeat it solo with Wilder, and this time too I defeated it on the first try, but it was harder. Fuck, never mind. After that I did beat it solo with Wilder a few times, and even a few more times with Ironeye. And yeah, with Ironeye solo the fight felt quite easy. It for sure was harder than the normal Gaping Jaw fight, but Ironeye makes quick work of any boss, so yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the fight itself. The battle starts off with Gaping Jaw already in phase 2. It jumps out and lands with this attack instantly. Great opening for sure. Since this is the second phase, you can't make it vomit if you poison it, but it still has the same resistances and defenses as the normal fight. The third phase is where it gets interesting. At first the boss just kinda starts teleporting all over the arena, and like this is just so fucking cool. I was shitting my pants when I saw that during my first attempt, but thankfully all of that is mostly for show. After that it does the usual big lightning AoE, and then it again disappears to do another lightning AoE, after which a massive storm starts forming which grows quite fast. There are a few ways you can deal with it. One is to just run through it and tank the damage, or you can just be far away from the boss and jump inside the storm with these spirit streams that spawn outside of the storm. And this is probably my favorite way to do it, since you don't really take damage and it just looks so cinematic to just jump over the storm right on top of the boss. Visually the boss itself changes only slightly, it grows massive rocks on its head, and it low-key looks like the boss entered its rebellious phase and decided to get a purple mohawk. But I mean, it does look very cool, so I do like it. Apart from these moves, I don't think the boss gets any new moves, except now most of its charge attacks get this trailing hitbox behind the boss, so you have to be more aware of what the boss is going to do, and you might have to start dodging these attacks differently. Also, his chomp attacks now seem to have a bigger hitbox, and they now have this purple lightning look to them, which does look very sick. This boss is not hard by any means, but it for sure is harder than the normal Gaping Jaw fight, and overall it is probably also better. The visual design is super cool, all of the attacks are for the most part fair, but I do have some criticisms. Before I say anything, I just want to say that I am in general not a fan of these big dragon-like bosses. I liked Bale from Elden Ring DLC, and I thought Caligo was fine, but I have always preferred more human-like bosses, or at least bosses that are not too big. For example, Malekith is quite a large boss, but it is always enjoyable to fight it. So I won't criticize the core design of the boss, as I am simply not the biggest fan of this type of design. So I will only critique the more objective stuff, which is the visual clutter in the last phase. This of course is a very minor nitpick, but I still felt the need to point it out. The visual effects do look good, just that sometimes there are too many of them. I have a feeling that these complaints won't resonate with a lot of people, but oh well. Another critique that I kinda have with this boss is that it is somewhat boring. Like, don't get me wrong, the first few times you fight it, it is amazing. The cinematic feel this boss has is amazing. What makes it boring is the boss's moveset. Like, I guess it is fine for a boss like this, but I don't know. Once the hype over the visual design and the wow factor goes away, the fight just feels empty and repetitive. But this probably ties back to me not being the biggest fan of this type of boss design, so I am willing to not make this a big deal. Especially because most likely the majority of players only fight these bosses 1 or 2 times, so the replayability is not something they care about as much as me. But this is kinda what worries me about future Everdark Sovereigns. What made each Nightlord stand out compared to other FromSoft bosses was the presentation and the cinematic effect. And I love that a lot. But with the enhanced Gaping Jaw, it feels like they were more focused on making it more cinematic instead of crafting a more interesting moveset. I will talk about Fulghor a bit later in the video, but I can say that he doesn't have the same issue. However, I can see some other Nightlords like Augur and Sentient Pest get the same treatment as Gaping Jaw. There's nothing wrong with that approach, of course, but I personally would like them to put more focus on the boss fight itself. But again, all of these are very minor nitpicks, and I am sure FromSoft will deliver great bosses. I am just kinda ranting for the sake of ranting, you know? Okay, back to Gaping Jaw. The relic you can get after defeating this boss is pretty mediocre in my opinion. I mean, yeah, the improved critical hits are nice, but the runes you get from them are very minuscule. And I don't know, I probably would pick other relics above this one when making a build, but maybe it will work better for you, so definitely check it out. Overall, this boss is pretty good. It is harder and better than the normal version, and the only real critique outside of the core design of the boss is the visual clutter, and maybe the lack of an interesting moveset. That being said, in a boss tier list I would probably put the enhanced version in the same tier as the normal version, and you can watch my previous video to see how I rated each Nightlord. The newest Everdark Sovereign is Fulghor, and let me tell you, FromSoft fucking cooked. The normal boss is not only the hardest out of all of the Nightlords, but it was also one of the most enjoyable, so I was very excited to see what they were going to do with the enhanced fight, and man, they went into a completely different route than I imagined. You know, I thought that Phase 3 would have even more to do with the crazy arm he has, but no, they went the completely opposite direction and just straight up got rid of it. And in my opinion that was for the better, because I don't know, the arm looked cool, but it was probably my least favorite part of his moveset. So just like Gaping Jaw, this fight also starts with the second phase, where Fulghor already has his crazy arm, and this phase goes the same as it did in the normal fight. The next phase is where it gets insane. His crazy arm changes to a normal one, and visually he gets a more golden and brighter color. For example, the braids on the horse part of his body become blonde, and in general the boss loses the purple accents it had. The boss pretty much keeps all of the attacks it had in phase 1 from the regular fight, but now it can also create a twin blade from his spear, and he gets 3 new moves. One is this quick 2-move combo, the second is this 3-hit combo where he jumps into the air, and lastly he has this absolutely insane 10-hit combo. All of these twin blade attacks hit a bit faster than you would imagine, and the range on them is pretty insane. Once you get the hang of them, they are quite easy to dodge, but you can still get fucked if you are caught in a bad position. Fulghor can also turn his spear into a bow, with which he also gets 3 new moves. One is this attack, where a lot of holy arrows just start raining down and following you. It is easy to avoid, but the boss can of course attack you while the arrows are falling, so be aware of that. He also gets this quick shot with the bow, which is also easy to dodge once you know about it, but it does come out pretty fast, so yeah. And lastly, with the bow he has this move, where he starts galloping in the air and charges up this insane nuke attack, which explodes with a big AoE. The attack does seem very intimidating, but you can simply sprint in the direction of the boss and you will be fine, since the attack lands based on your location when Fulghor starts charging up the attack. Another benefit of avoiding this attack by just running is that the boss will come down pretty much right next to you, so you can start hitting him early. All of the moves in the last phase are very fair, they feel nice to dodge and they do look very cool. So what is the difficulty like? As I said before, Fulghor is the hardest Nightlord, and this Everdark Sovereign version is probably on the same level. On my first attempt I was playing solo with Ironeye. I got level 15 and I had a lightning bow. I had 2 vending races and even then I didn't manage to beat it. But on my second attempt I did beat him. After that, I did defeat the boss every single time with Ironeye. Because Ironeye takes no skill, I decided to beat him with a melee character, and so I chose Wilder. I had a very unlucky run, I was only level 12, I had the holy weapon, and if you didn't know, Fulghor has 30% holy damage negation. Because my run was so unlucky, I decided to get 3 vending races, but I managed to beat the boss only using 4 flasks, and I didn't even use a single revive. You can see below the stamina bar that I still have Wilder's passive ability active. So yeah, this is one of those bosses that feels very hard on the first few runs, but once you get the hang of it, the boss feels fairly easy. That being said, the boss is extremely enjoyable, and I like it way more than the normal fight. I would probably put it halfway between A tier and S tier. The final phase is for sure S tier. I would even say it is one of my favorite bosses of all time, but since the starting phase is not my favorite due to the crazy arm attacks, I wouldn't quite put it in S tier, but this fight is still insanely good. I guess I do wish it was a bit harder, maybe with more combos or something, but maybe it is for the better that this fight is the way it is. Now let's talk about the relic you can get for beating this boss. At first I thought it was really good, because it boosts attacks with added affinities, and so I thought it would pair really well with the Knight of the Lord relic. And it does. But the problem is that it kinda only makes sense to use that relic for Ironeye, since swapping weapons with him is not only fast, but also just more convenient, since you are far away from your enemies. And I am about to show you why this relic is not all that great, for Ironeye at least. If you wanna use it for other characters, then go ahead, because the rest of the relic is great. It gives you a flat stamina increase of 10, and makes it so that you charge your ultimate faster. But right now let's test it for Ironeye and the compatibility with the Knight of the Lord relic. So right now my bow would deal 107 damage. If I equip the Knight of the Lord relic, after switching to my bow it deals 118 damage plus 13 elemental damage. Now I will also equip the new relic you get from beating the boss. And now I will deal 118 damage plus 14 elemental damage. So the elemental damage increased by 1, which is not a lot, but you know, damage is damage. Now I will swap that new relic with the Edge of Order relic, which boosts bow attack power by, I believe, 5 or 6%. And now guess what? I still deal 14 elemental damage, but my physical damage is now 125, which is way more total damage than with the new relic. If you really want the most amount of damage, just equip all 3 of them and you will deal 125 damage plus 16 elemental damage. The reason all of this even happens is because the Edge of Order relic actually also boosts that extra elemental damage, and at a low number like 13, and due to rounding, it doesn't really matter if it gets boosted by 5% or 10%. Of course, if you use a Grease which adds 21 elemental damage, then there is a 1 damage difference between both relics, but yeah. My point is that if you are an Ironeye player and you thought this buff would pair nicely with the Knight of the Lord relic, it really doesn't. For other characters it can be beneficial, just test out the numbers yourself. Both of these Everdark Sovereigns are good bosses, especially Fulghor, and both of them are not only harder than the regular fights, but they are also better and more enjoyable to fight. The enhanced Gaping Jaw is pretty good, but there are just too many visual effects for my liking. And yeah, the fight does become slightly boring after a few runs, but nevertheless it is still a great fight. The enhanced Fulghor is amazing, the last phase almost takes this boss into S tier category, but I wish it was slightly harder. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, press like and subscribe. See you in the next one.